Good evening. We're back live after our break, beginning our rest of our agenda on item 8.1, bylaw 1072-25, assessment review board bylaw, first, second, and third reading. So before I go to Ms. Dargier for her presentation, just a little recap. We normally don't do 3 readings in one night. We don't have to, but the circumstances of this situation are time sensitive, and Ms. Dargier will explain that if she needs to in her presentation. But normally we try and do 3 readings, third reading on a different day, but if this was time sensitive, so we're going to get it done on 3 readings this evening. So Ms. Dargier, with that, I'll turn it over to you, please. Oh, hang on. There you go.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I'm Joanne Dargier, the Director of Legal and Legislative Services. I'm here to present bylaw 1072-25, the proposed assessment review board bylaw, and to seek Council's approval for the ARB agreement for 2025-2027 with the Capital Region Assessment Services Commission. I'm going to refer to them as the Commission from now on. It's just going to be a little bit easier. This bylaw establishes the Local Assessment Review Board and composite assessment review boards for the city as required under the Municipal Government Act. It also aligns Beaumont's assessment review process with the terms set out in the agreement with the Commission. Since 2010, Beaumont has participated in a regional assessment review board agreement with Leduc County. However, in 2024, Leduc County advised that they would not be renewing this agreement, and as a result, the city must establish its own ARB process. Given the low volume of assessment complaints that the city has received, 9 in the past 5 years, with only 2 proceeding to a hearing, administration has determined that maintaining a standalone municipal board would not be practical or efficient. Instead, like more than 70 municipalities, including cities like Spruce Grove and Fort Saskatchewan, who contract their ARB services to the Commission, administration feels that this approach ensures compliance with the MGA while leveraging an experienced service provider to handle assessment complaints. The bylaw and agreement include the following provisions: formal establishment of the local assessment and composite review boards in compliance with the MGA, selection of all panelists from the Commission's accredited pool, ensuring qualified members, annual appointment by this Council of the panelists, chair, and clerk based on the Commission's recommendations, standardized procedures for filing complaints, including fees aligned with other municipalities using the Commission services, a compensation model for Commission services, including an annual core fee, per parcel fees, and hearing-related costs, and repeal of the existing Assessment Review Board bylaw to ensure alignment with legislative and operational requirements. Fees and expenses associated with the Commission providing their services are outlined in Schedule A of the agreement and include annual participation fees and per hearing charges. The city's fees and charges bylaw will also be updated to align Beaumont's complaint fees with those of other municipalities using the Commission. Beaumont's Assessment Review Board members that had been appointed to the Leduc Regional Assessment Review Board have already been notified that administration is proposing to contract its ARB services to the Commission. Should those members wish to continue serving on an assessment review board, they can apply to the Commission to be added to the Commission's pool of panelists. The city is legally required to establish a local assessment and composite review boards. Failing to do so in a timely manner could leave the city unable to administer assessment complaints in compliance with provincial law. To assist property owners, the city's website will be updated with revised fee information and guidance on how to file an assessment complaint. This bylaw and agreement provide a cost-effective, compliant, and efficient solution for handling assessment complaints while ensuring access to qualified panelists and administrative support. At this time, administration is requesting that Council give 3 readings to bylaw 1072-25 to establish Beaumont's local and composite assessment review boards, authorize the Mayor to sign the ARB agreement for 2025 to 2027, appoint the following individuals to the city's assessment review board for 2025 for the assessment review board, clerk Gerald Amaran, the chair Raymond Ralph, and panelists Darlene Chartrand, Cheryl Exley, Tina Groshko, Richard Knowles, Marcel LeBlanc, and Raymond Ralph. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions from Council.
Thank you, Ms. Dargier. Members of Council with questions. Councillor Penrod. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Daniluk. Appreciate the report and the creativity from administration finding a way forward here. Now that we don't have our former dance partner, good to see that we were able to have some regional collaboration in another way. Hopefully, if not save some money, then at least kind of retain costs, which these days, if you can keep your costs the same, that's like saving money. Look, I'm looking at the report under item 4, obligations of the participant. Actually, I think I'm looking at the contract, not the report. Understanding that if we move through all 3 readings tonight, then the contract we're entering into applies retroactive to January 1, if my memory serves correctly. There is a clause in 4A that Beaumont would need to communicate certain information to the commission by February 15th. Just wondering what steps have been taken to address that timeframe.
We have been in contact with the commission, and they're aware of the timeline that we're bringing the bylaw and the agreement forward.
Great, thank you. And with respect to the fees and expenses outlined in Schedule A, which is page 125 of our report, just wondering how these costs compare to the costs under our former arrangement. Not looking for exact dollars and cents, but in general.
Could you hold on for just 1 second? I do have the agreement with the City of Leduc. Just let me check. But our fees and charges were just for our fees, right? Yeah. Thank you for the question, Councillor Penrod. So from my understanding with the agreement with Leduc County, it was a sliding fee, and it was also based on actual costs. So whatever costs were incurred were billed back to the city. There will be an increase to the fees, which is why we've also increased our fees for the complaints. It won't be 100% recoverable, but based on the number of complaints that the city does receive, we don't expect there to be a significant impact.
Thank you. Appreciate the attention to those details.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Telebus, followed by Councillor Barnhart. Nathan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Also, thank you for putting together this presentation. Appreciate it and all the information that comes with it. Just a quick question. Obviously, we're having to make a change and an adjustment, and we're bound by this requirement. Just wondering if there are alternatives to Krask, which we've chosen as a partner here, and if so, how come we went this route versus potentially another?
Thank you, Mayor. Through to Councillor Natellenbos. We did look at another opportunity. It was explored with the County of Strathcona to see if we could enter into a regional assessment review board with them. And part of the reason for us bringing this so late to council is that they didn't get back to us until quite late last year, letting us know that they wouldn't be able to take us on as part of a regional assessment review board. We were then looking for another opportunity, and Fort Saskatchewan let us know that they use this service and that it was quite efficient. When we looked into it, it seemed like a good opportunity for us. Again, to reiterate the presentation, it's not cost effective for the city to have its own assessment review board, given the number of complaints that we receive and the training that's required for the board members. So the commission has all of that already all set up. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Barnhart, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the report. You answered one part of my question, that was the training, because I was pretty sure there would be. The other question I have is the members of the commission. How are they chosen, and are Beaumontians eligible to become members of this commission? What's the process for that?
Thank you, Councillor Barnhart, for that question. So I'm not sure how the panelists are chosen. They can make application. I'm not sure what qualifications they look at, what the commission looks at, but they do have to attend training and become qualified members, according to the MGA. And yes, Beaumont individuals can apply to the commission to be part of the panelist pool. They would be provided all of the training, the necessary training, and then could be assigned to a municipality.
Just if I could, Mayor, just further on that, the names that are here then, these are the names of the entire commission? There's no other folks on the commission? These are the people that are currently on the commission now?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor. Seeing no further questions from members of council for administration's report, Madam Clerk, would you please put the motion for first reading on the screen? I'll make that motion and go to another councillor for the second reading motion when we get to it. Thank you. I move that bylaw 1072-25, Assessment Review Board bylaw, be given first reading. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, would you please initiate the voting process? Council, would you please vote on first reading? Kathy? Yeah, I see you doing it, but I don't want to assume which side of the screen you're on. No problem. Thank you, Councillor. That carries unanimously 6-0 in favor of first reading. Is there a member of council willing to move the motion for second reading? Councillor Van Newkirk, you have the floor, Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd move that bylaw 1072-25 be given second reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Wish to speak to your motion, or you're good?
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, thank you. Would you please initiate the voting process for second reading, please? Thank you, Council. That carries unanimously, 6-0 in favor of second reading. Now, because we're looking at doing third reading the same evening, give me 1 second here to pull up my screen now. Where did I have it here? We need a motion to be considered for third reading. I'll move that bylaw 1072-25 be considered for third reading. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, would you please initiate the voting process for consideration of third reading? Council, would you please vote? And that carries unanimously, also 6-0 in favor of consideration for third reading. With that, for expediency purposes, I will move when third reading is on the screen. I'll move that bylaw 1072-25 be given third reading. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, would you please initiate the voting process for third reading? Thank you, Council. That carries unanimously, also 6-0 in favor of third reading. And with this particular bylaw, we need to go one more step in the motion process. Would you please, Madam Clerk? Yeah. For expediency purposes, I'll continue moving on, that I move that the following individuals be appointed to the city, the first one I need to do first. That the mayor, on behalf of council, execute the ARB Agreement 2025-2027, the Capital Region Assessment Services Commission, and I move that the following individuals be appointed to the City of Beaumont Assessment Review Board for 2025 term. Gerald Orman, Capital Region Assessment Services Commission as Assessment Review Board Clerk. Raymond Ralph as Chair of Assessment Review Board, and Darlene Chartrand, Cheryl Exley, Tina Grosco, Richard Knowles, Marcel LeBlanc, and Raymond Ralph be panelists of the Assessment Review Board. Discussion of the motion, members of council. Seeing none, I will request that we initiate the voting process for these motions in association with the bylaw. Thank you. Next on our agenda this evening, item 8.2, bylaw 1071-25, land use bylaw, amending bylaw, Innovation Park, first reading. Ms. Sharp, I believe you're presenting this evening. Let me get your microphone on. And it is on. When you're ready, please, Ms. Sharp.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and members of the public. My name is Yasmin Sharp, Senior Development Planner, and I will be presenting bylaw 1071-25, land use bylaw amending bylaw for Council's consideration. The Innovation Park is poised to become a unique industrial and commercial employment center that includes uses that have not otherwise been developed within the City of Beaumont or the surrounding region. As a result, the current version of the land use bylaw is not equipped to facilitate developments planned by the Alberta Motor Transport Association, or AMTA, which I will refer to them moving forward. The purpose of bylaw 1071-25 is to amend the text of the land use bylaw to allow development to proceed as planned for the Innovation Park Area Structure Plan. The amendment includes the addition of 2 new uses, new use standards within the Business Light Industrial District, parking regulations for the new uses, and a revision to the government use definition. The majority of the uses intended by AMTA are already contemplated within the City of Beaumont land use bylaw. For example, the multidisciplinary campus may include office use, as well as fleet vehicle storage and a maintenance garage, both of which would fall under the existing industrial light use. As a result, the Innovation Park only requires 2 new uses. First, emergency service training facility, which is defined as a development used to support specialized protective and emergency service training, including an indoor firing range and protective service exercises and simulations. In the definition, there are several points that focus on what is not included. This is to define clear parameters, for example, no outdoor firing range, and to ensure that local public agencies such as police, fire, and ambulances are able to locate and train outside of the Innovation Park. The second use is motor vehicle training and research facility, which is defined as a paved motor vehicle course specifically designed, constructed, and maintained for training, research, and testing of motor vehicles. This does not include recreational or professional racing. Both of these uses are proposed to only be able to locate within the Innovation Park area. In developing the proposed amendments, administration was guided by 5 key objectives. First, enabling the Innovation Park to develop as intended and accommodate the uses planned by AMTA. Second, establish site regulations that minimize off-site impacts. This includes potential visual noise or smell nuisances, and promote a high aesthetic standard. Third, restrict the new uses from locating outside of the Innovation Park where they would be incompatible with surrounding development. Balance the flexibility necessary to facilitate innovation while also establishing clear limitations on what cannot be developed within the Innovation Park area. The 2 examples already provided was recreational racing and outdoor shooting range. And finally, maintain the ability for local public services, such as fire, police, and ambulance, to be established and engage in training outside of the Innovation Park. Bylaw 1071-25 is limited to amending the text of the land use bylaw. A separate redistricting application is required to change the Innovation Park land use from agricultural holdings to business light industrial. This is an applicant responsibility, and additional studies may be required to support the redistricting application. For example, as part of the area structure plan, a biophysical assessment was conducted over the entire plan area in order to delineate wetlands and identify wildlife species of special status, among other ecological features. This provides the first layer of investigation and outlines more specific areas that warrant further study. For instance, as Mr. Monica identified as part of the area structure plan bylaw discussion, a natural area assessment is necessary to assess the water balance requirement for maintaining the existing wetlands on the east quarter section of the plan area. This is recommended for the redistricting or subdivision application stage, since it would be affected by several developments and should be conducted at a time when the planned use for the area is further understood. In contrast, a noise impact assessment may be more appropriate at the development permit stage and is more specific to a particular development, for example, required as part of the driving track permit application. The amending bylaw was circulated to adjacent municipalities, internal departments, external agencies, and landowners within the Innovation Park plan area, and no comments or concerns were received. A public hearing and second and third reading are tentatively scheduled for March 11th. Following first reading, administration will advertise the proposed bylaw in the local newspaper, place an ad on our website, and send notifications to adjacent landowners and affected parties. Administration is recommending that bylaw 1071-25, a bylaw to amend the land use bylaw, be given first reading. Administration is available to answer any clarifying questions that council has on the bylaw at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Appreciate the presentation. Any clarifying questions from members of council before I ask the motion for first reading? Councilor Natelambas. Nathan, you have the floor.
Thanks, Mayor. Again, thanks for the presentation. Appreciate it. I guess just a general question in regards to isolating this change in bylaw specifically to the Innovation Park. Just wondering what that looks like and how we can just focus it on that area versus potentially putting ourselves in a scenario where a bunch of these are going up in different areas.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Natelambas. So this is done in two ways. First, it's identified as a discretionary use in the Business Light Industrial District, and it is unpermitted in all other districts. Secondly, there's been regulations added to the Business Light Industrial District that specifically state that these uses are only allowed within the Innovation Park Area Structure Plan. So for that reason, it would be very transparent to anyone looking to do this use that it would be limited to this area. It's explicitly said and not just as a discretionary use at the discretion of administration.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor. Appreciate the clarification question. Seeing no further questions of clarification, members of council, would you please put, Madam Clerk, motion for first reading on the screen, please? Land use bylaw, amending bylaw Innovation Park, a bylaw to amend bylaw Innovation Park, a bylaw to amend bylaw 944-19, our zoning blueprint, land use bylaw be given first reading. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, would you please initiate the voting process, please? Council, would you please vote on first reading? And that carries unanimously. Thank you, Council. 6-0 in favor of first reading. Thank you. Next on our agenda, it was taken off 3-25, Municipal Policing Community Bylaw. Will you be presenting before I go to Council? Thank you, Ms. Darjay. Oh, hang on. There you go. I had turned it on, number 10,
Yep,
right?
there we go.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm still Joanne Dargy. I'm still the Director of Legal and Legislative Services, and I'm here to present Bylaw 1073-25, the Municipal Policing Committee Bylaw for Council's consideration. Recent amendments to the Police Act require all Alberta municipalities that receive RCMP policing services under a Municipal Police Service Agreement to establish a Municipal Policing Committee by March 1st, 2025. The proposed bylaw ensures compliance with this legislative requirement while also formalizing local input on policing matters. Beaumont currently has an RCMP Community Advisory Committee, which serves as a forum for discussions between the RCMP and community representatives. However, because it was not established by bylaw, it does not meet the new legal requirements for the municipal policing governance. Given Beaumont's population and governance structure, the new regulations require the city to establish an MPC. The bylaw establishes the Municipal Policing Committee as a council committee with the following mandate: to oversee the administration of the Police Services Agreement, ensuring alignment with municipal priorities, representing public and council interests in discussions with the RCMP's officer in charge, developing an annual policing plan outlining priorities and strategies in collaboration with the RCMP, creating a community safety plan engaging local agencies and stakeholders to enhance public safety, assisting in selecting the officer in charge when this position is vacant, providing reports to the minister on policing priorities, programs, and services, and appointing a public complaint director who will oversee complaints against the RCMP officers. Key elements of the bylaw is that the committee will consist of one council member and up to 6 public members, all appointed by council. At the suggestion of legal counsel, the bylaw is silent on appointing a youth member to the committee. Council can make the determination of whether to appoint a community youth to the committee once member applications are received. Non-voting advisory members include the Beaumont RCMP officer in charge and the CAO or his designate. All members must pass an enhanced security check and adhere to a code of conduct. Following discussion at Committee of the Whole, the bylaw includes direction for the committee to consider the experience and qualifications of the person being considered for the Public Complaints Director position, having regard to a background in law enforcement or policing. Members, except for the council representative, will receive an honorarium of $30 per meeting in accordance with the city's board and committee member appreciation policy. The province will cover the initial enhanced security check costs, but ongoing checks will be a city expense. To ensure community awareness of this committee, administration will publicly advertise committee membership opportunities following passage of this bylaw. At this time, administration requests that council give 3 readings to bylaw 1073-25 to formally establish the Municipal Policing Committee and appoint Councillor Natellenbos as the council representative effective March 1st, 2025. That concludes my presentation. I welcome any questions from council.
Thank you, Ms. Dargy. Councillor Penrod, you pulled it off consent. I assume you have some questions, so you have the floor.
Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate the report, Ms. Dargy. First of all, just want to comment and say thank you to administration for the work that's been done to incorporate feedback received from Committee of the Whole. Definitely see it in there, and always feels good to know that the process is unfolding as it should. I know that, well, I was going to make a joke, but my kids keep reminding me I'm not funny, so I'll avoid that. I just want to get clear on how we end up today needing to move through all 3 readings. And I understand that that's, we're learning that that's not always a bad thing, and that it, sometimes it's just the order of things that needs to happen. I understand that the legislation, the provincial legislation, the Police Act, has changed, and those most recent changes took effect upon proclamation December 2022. Is that correct?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Penrod. So the police, it's a bit complicated. The Police Amendment Act 2022 was given royal assent. However, it was not proclaimed in force.
Okay.
Certain sections were proclaimed in force in May, and those were incorporated into the Police Act. There were still remaining sections that had not been proclaimed in force. Additional sections were proclaimed in force at the end of 2024, which provided for the requirements for this Municipal Policing Committee. There are certain amendments under the Police Amendment Act that are still not proclaimed in force. We were not aware of the changes or the sections that were proclaimed in force at the end of the year initially, and so the information came to us late, and we were having to do this very quickly.
Thank you. Appreciate the transparency on that. If I could just restate it, make sure that I understand. When the government passes new legislation or an amendment of existing legislation, in some ways they're giving kind of a 10,000-foot view of what they intend to do. And then in our process, that gets debated and eventually takes effect, receives royal assent. But then the rubber can't meet the road until it goes to the minister's office, and the minister starts deciding how to roll out all the changes that are going to need to take place under the new legislation. Is that a fair summary of how these things work?
It's fair summary, yeah. I mean, it's an order in council that would proclaim the sections or the act in force. Often, they will, provincial legislation will be passed, regulations will follow. Often, the provincial legislation will be given royal assent while they do the regulations, and that was what happened with the Police Act. The Police Amendment Act was given royal assent. They established some regulations, and then were able to proclaim certain other sections into force. Yeah.
So in this case, part of what you're dealing with is getting this kind of continuing communication from the province that says, okay, we've got this piece achieved, now here comes the next set of regulations. Oh, by the way, we need them last Thursday.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I do have a question on the bylaw in particular, but I'll save that until after first reading, Mayor.
Okay. Good enough. So have we moved first reading?
We haven't yet, but
No. City of Beaumont Municipal Policing Committee bylaw be given first reading. Question, Councillor Penrod.
Thank you, Mayor Daniluk. This one I can keep brief. I'm looking at page 142 of the overall agenda for tonight. And I'm specifically looking at the clause 15, termination, item D. And I'm wondering if item D, which says one of the reasons that council could choose to remove a member of the committee would be D, for publicly disclosing any information provided to the member or to the committee in confidence, or any information that, if made public, could jeopardize RCMP operations. Is there something in the legislation or the regulations that requires that particular clause?
through the mayor to Councillor Penrod, the legislation only states that council may remove a member of committee for cause. When I consulted legal counsel on this particular clause, it was suggested and recommended that we provide reasons for cause to provide some guidance to council.
Okay, thank you for that answer. And this is a work in progress. So, Mayor, I'm going to suggest an amendment because just for clarity's sake, I think actually item D is redundant.
Hang on, Councillor Penrod. Madam Clerk, yours to jump in on that.
Thank you, Mayor. Procedurally wise, we would give first reading, and then after we could do a motion to amend prior to second reading for this.
Sorry, I thought we had just moved first reading.
We've moved it, but we have not voted on it yet.
Pardon me.
Vote on it, yeah.
Pardon me. I got ahead of myself.
Okay. All right, with that, no further questions on first reading. Would you please initiate the process for voting on first reading, please? Motion carries unanimously, 6-0 in favor of first reading. Do we now move second reading and then we can make any amendments at second reading? Madam Clerk, or we do any amendments first? What is the best way to proceed, please?
Councillor Penrod could put his motion forward if he wishes to.
Okay, Councillor Penrod, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Daniluk. So just to continue on my thought now that I'm actually in order, just in my reading of the termination clause, cause for dismissal from the committee would be violating the code of conduct, this bylaw, or the Police Act. Our code of conduct, that's listed later in the report under items 1, 5, 6, and 10, covers off all of the pieces mentioned in D, with the exception of.
Okay, councillors, are you making a motion?
Yep, so I'm prepared to make a motion to amend, and I think we have that.
Madam Clerk, when you're ready, please. Make your motion, Councillor, please.
So I move that bylaw 1073-25, Municipal Policing Committee bylaw, be amended by striking out section 15D.
Thank you. Please speak to your motion, and I'll entertain questions from members of council.
Yep, so just to reiterate, I think D is redundant. It is already covered in item B.
Thank you. Members of council wish to discuss this motion, this amending motion? Councillor Nantellenbos. Nathan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick clarification, hoping to get from Councillor Penrod. You did mention that throughout, obviously, the B portions of violating the code of conduct, this bylaw, or the Police Act did not capture information that, if made public, could jeopardize RCMP operations. Am I correct?
Councillor Penrod?
Yeah, I think that would be the narrowest reading of it. I think that piece would be covered under the Police Act, but I'm not super versed on the Police Act, so I could stand corrected by administration on that, or any of my colleagues that know the Police Act better.
And I guess next question to you, by removing this, do you feel that it will provide any benefit?
I just think in all bylaws, there's benefit in having the bylaw as lean as possible, just for clarity's sake. So I think the intention, this is why I started with a question. So administration said that we've already gotten a bit more granular than what the legislation requires on advice from our legal counsel, which I think we always want to listen to. But in this case, I think item D isn't required.
Thank you, Councillor. I won't be supporting this motion. I trust the lawyers we've already consulted with, and I trust the lawyers' opinion on this matter, so I won't be supporting this amendment. Oh, sorry, Councillor Barnhart, I just saw your hand go up just now, followed by Councilman Newkirk. Councillor Barnhart, you have the floor.
I think Ms. Dozier, you wanted to say something first, or?
I thought your mic was on.
Oh, my mic's just been on.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
I won't be supporting it either. I like the clarity that D provides. I myself wouldn't have thought to go and read the Police Act to find that particular piece, so I'm just feeling that it doesn't hurt to have it there. So I think I'll side with you, Mayor, on that one. I won't be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Newkirk, followed by Councillor McCook. Steve, you have the floor.
Yeah, chalk me into the same category as the mayor and Councillor Barnhart. I do understand Councillor Penrod's line of thought. I don't necessarily disagree with that line of thought, but I do know that we've paid lawyers to look after this, and I don't think it hurts to have item D in there for clarity. So, yeah, I won't be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McCook. Kat, you have the floor.
I think similar, especially what it outlines. Edmund, do we know if it is explicit in the Police Act?
It is not.
It is not. Okay. Thank you. That clarifies it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Talbot, last comment before I go to the vote. Nathan, you have the floor.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. I align with my colleagues here. Just another reason why is it also mentions if you cease to be a Beaumont resident, which is actually captured in this bylaw too. So if we were to follow that strategy, we should strike that one out as well. But given the fact that we've used the professionals to put this together, I'm going to support how it stands right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Penrod, a final comment before I go to the vote. If you wish a final comment. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please initiate the voting process on this amendment?
This is on the amendment.
This is on the amendment, correct. The motion is defeated, 5-1. Motion is defeated. Voting in favor, Councillor Penrod. Thank you. Motion is defeated on the amendment. We'll now go to second reading of the bylaw. Is that me? No. Weird. Okay. Would you please put second reading on the screen, please? Councillor Newkirk, would you care to move second reading, please?
Yes, I'd move that bylaw 1073-25 be given second reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, would you please initiate the voting process for second reading, please? That carries unanimously, 6-0 in favor of second reading. Thank you, Council. Let me just get my screen up here again. I just went down on me. Give me 1 second. As we're doing 3 readings this evening, our next motion is to give consideration for a third reading. I move that bylaw 1073-25 be considered for second reading. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Council, would you please initiate the voting process? Would you please vote for consideration of third reading? Also carries unanimously, 6-0 in favor of the motion for consideration of third reading. I'll now move to a member of council willing to move third reading of the bylaw. Councilor Tellenbus, would you make that motion, please?
I move that bylaw 1073-25 be given third reading.
Thank you, Councillor. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, would you please initiate the voting process for third reading of the bylaw? That carries unanimously. Also 6-0 in favor of third reading. Thank you, Council. Next on our agenda we have councillor inquiries.
Mayor, we do have one more motion for this one.
Oh, my mistake, Madam Clerk, thank you. My screen collapsed on me there. Hang on a second. I'll move, please, that effective March 1, 2025, Councillor Nantalambous be appointed to Municipal Policing Committee pursuant to bylaw 1073-25. Councillor Nantalambous, would you care to speak to it, or you're good? Sorry, I'm just pulling your leg. Okay, same discussion on the motion? Seeing none, would you please initiate the voting process for this additional motion on the bylaw? That carries unanimously also, 6-0. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for catching that. Next on our councillor inquiries this evening, Madam Clerk.
3 councillor inquiries this evening.
Okay, Councillor Nantalambous, I believe you have first dibs with the floor.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to put forward the councillor inquiry, to please provide information on the considerations and associated costs in preparing a land use bylaw amendment to amend the use standards medical cannabis section to prohibit cannabis production and selling licenses within 100 meters of daycares and after/out of school cares.
Thank you, Councillor. I believe the second one, I believe. Make it when you're ready, please.
Perfect, thank you. In addition to the councillor inquiry that Councillor Penrod had put forward, I would just also like that we please provide information on whether the snow and ice service level review that's being conducted this year will include comparisons with other similar sized municipalities to include things such as staff, equipment, and schedules.
Thank you, Councillor. I believe we have a third inquiry this evening, and it's from Councillor Barnhart. Councillor Barnhart, you have the floor when you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor. Please provide information on whether administration will be bringing back a report to council regarding the arts operating in major grant programs, and if so, will the report include the following, excuse me, addressing lessons learned, improvements made and or recommendations for improvements, performance measurement, and any proposed adjustments to the application process.
Thank you, Councillor. Appreciate that. Are there any further councillor inquiries? I believe there's just the 3 reports from many members of council this evening. Thank you. With that, next on our agenda is CU update. Mr. Schwartz, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much. You'll see estimated that we had about 750 people attend, so that's pretty cool. As I reported prior, Fortis Alberta sponsored some drop-in at the BSRC. They had about 214 people took advantage of that. And Kin Kindness Day was set up at the BSRC on February 22nd from 12 to 2, and they had about 10 family passes to give out in a draw, and I understand it was well attended as well. Infrastructure, February 18th, we've completed 1 full sweep of residential, so that's all of the priority levels, and just in time for the melt. And it's very important to get that snow out of there for when we get to these soupy conditions and we have drainage problems and storm drains that are frozen. So well done, everybody. The transit ridership, you can see the numbers as we expected. They're climbing after a little bit of a decrease from December. It's normal. I won't go through the details of that, but you can see it on the paper. And from our Legend Legal Services, there has been some recent changes to the provincial legislation requiring residents to register before voting in a municipal election. So beginning March 1st, the city's election webpage will have that link included. Residents are encouraged to get out and register to vote. The provincial budget, as we all know, will be released on Thursday afternoon. Communications, Finance, and LLNS will analyze the budget and assess it and the impacts to us. It's important to note that typically they release a capital budget, but it lacks any type of detail. So the notion of us expecting a school site or servicing or any of those details will start to trickle out later on, usually in weeks following, sometimes days. Alberta Munis is hosting a webinar on the budget Friday afternoon, so if you want to take part in that, please do so. And I did want to talk about two new businesses that just opened in our community, and one was the Co-op Gas Bar, opened up yesterday, and the other is Mayan's Noodle House. So they're now open, both on the south side, so we welcome them to Beaumont and urge everyone to check them out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz, appreciate that. Members of council, any questions for our CEO Schwartz on his report? Seeing no questions, thank you, council. Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Next on our agenda is correspondence. Madam Clerk, any correspondence this evening? Not aware of any council this evening. None? All right, last item on our agenda. So with that, that brings us to the end of our agenda this evening. And with that, we are adjourned at 8:15. Thank you and enjoy your evening. Shalane, you got a second? We can talk for a second? Thanks.